What's up, everyone, and welcome to ClearTalk. So, in this video, we're going to be going over the ceasefire information deal that has been going on this whole what I assume is quite a few several weeks here, but has really kind of come together here in the past week over the last few days. I'm gonna try to hit all the details as much as I can, and then the latest information coming out. I have a report here from Axios that we'll go over. So yeah, that's what we're going to talk about in this video. So if you like what I'm doing here, please consider subscribing, like, share, comment, all that good stuff. Check out my other channels, JMDPLAY, JMD Drummer. Check out the content if you want as well. Subscribe there, like, share, all that good stuff there as well. Good stuff there. And then the Discord there, JMD Nation, if you want to, talk with me, other people in there, give, ideas for videos or whatever. Um, Check that out. You have one-time donation with the QR there, or JMD Nation Patreon if you want to do $3 a month to help support the channel and the content coming to you, all that good stuff. That's very much appreciated. You don't have to, but it would be very much appreciated. But any support that you give, like, shares, all that good stuff, all of it's appreciated. So thank you very, very much. All right, um, so from what I'm understanding, okay, now we talked in the Biden speech a minute ago. He immediately was trying to talk about it and take credit. He's trying to take full credit. You have Trump and his team trying to take full credit, and the reality is, from my understanding, you've got both of them coalescing together to try to make this happen. Biden and some of his teams there, some of Trump's teams there. One particular person, I think, has been in the discussions. You have them saying that people are saying that it's just Trump or Trump's guy went in there and demanded Netanyahu. He's a more of a real estate tycoon kind of guy, business guy, and he's kind of straight to the point, not really diplomatic or any way, and just come in there and just like, you better do this and blah blah blah, representation of Trump. And it happened, like, oh my gosh, this is showing the power of our US government, and the inability of Biden and his team, and what they could have done but they didn't. And Trump just comes in here and he just barrels through and tells them what's going to happen, and it happens, and blah blah blah. He's so strong. He's showing the strength of the presidency. um let, let let's calm. Okay, let's back up. All right, let's chill. All right. um I'm not giving either one of them credit here, for starters. Uh, and this is just before we get into the details. For starters, yes, Biden and them could have taken care of this months ago. We already discussed that back in May. They could have taken care of it. All they had to do was press, military aid or whatever. Or rather, just like resist giving it to them, deny it or whatever. That power could have alone probably made Netanyahu go along with it and did blah blah whatever. There's several avenues that Biden and his administration could have taken to make the deal go through, and they just did not really try. It was clear that they were not going to hit that hard on it. They had the rhetoric, but the action wasn't there. It was clear that they were behind and saw nothing wrong with what was going on. Nothing wrong with the further actions that Netanyahu and his regime has done in Gaza. The attacks on all the in the assassinations of members of Hamas, Hezbollah, whatnot, the attacks on Iran, everything. They have been behind. They have been okay with it, and continuously sending ammo, money, weaponry, everything to them. It hasn't stopped. They have been completely supportive of it this whole time. So, them at this last minute trying to act like they are, urgently, supportive of trying to get this deal and what, to try to save face and all the bullshit that they have allowed over the past year, to make themselves go out with some sort of positive view, I guess, of the administration. Yeah, fuck that. You should have already had this done. You are incompetent at the very least, at the very worst, and more like you are just as corrupt and sinister and vile as Netanyahu and his regime and everything that has happened. I'm sorry, but you are. So I give you no credit. And on the flip side of that, with Trump, Trump has been making these arguments, here the past couple of months that he was going to take care of this and he was going to make the deal and it was going to get done. He was going to force them to do it before he gets into office. We know that him and Netanyahu have been buddy-buddy for a while. They got along perfectly fine when in his first presidency. He has backed everything for Israel. He has been paid off by people who back Israel. He was given, hundreds of thousands of dollars from, the Adelsons and stuff. First from the husband or the main guy back in his first administration, and then after he died, he's been given money from the wife, Miriam or whatever, since then, and all in the name of approving. First off, it was the annexing of the Golan Heights. Now it's annexing of the West Bank, along with there's all these different things, and he has been completely on board with, even from his first administration, having the embassy moved to Jerusalem and everything else. He has been full on. He's gotten along with Netanyahu. They have been in talks this whole time. Netanyahu, his special dinner with him in Mar-a-Lago when he came to the U.S. a couple months back. It has been clear, and we have been trying to state all along that Netanyahu and Trump had a deal already made. And if Biden was not going to force him, then it was going to work out perfectly. All right. And this was all, in my opinion, to make Trump look good and help him establish, this aura of greatness or whatever in his presidency. And also, he knew that he would get compromises from Trump that he would not more or less get from Biden in his administration. Because ultimately, annexing the West Bank and all and other things, I don't believe they would get out of Biden. As much as Biden supported and much as Blinken, all the crew supported them, there are, I think, some red lines that they would not have allowed or would have argued Netanyahu not to do, or they would have not, or wouldn't have allowed. As silly as that may sound, I think those would have been too far. But he knew that he could do that with Trump. He knew Trump would give him whatever, because Trump's been paid off for it. So there's no way in the world that I'm going to give some sort of credit to Trump, albeit a ceasefire is wonderful and welcomed for the Palestinian people. But that, for me, does not warrant me giving you credit, especially not credit of strength, if by getting that deal And let's remember that, you know, Trump is known as the art of the deal. He's known as being a businessman, a dealman. All right. He doesn't you know he acts, and he wants to give this personification that he just is this sort of boss, like, uh mafia style boss that just commands people around and they do what he wants. No, he makes deals. He promises things in exchange for things. That's what he does. All right. He has the forward facing rhetoric of being a mafia boss, but what he really does in the background is just make deals, make promises. All right. So for me, for you to bend the knee to all these things that Netanyahu and the worst people in his regime want to happen, for you bending your knee and allowing those things to happen, for me, does not show strength. That shows weakness. It means you're giving in to all these crazy ass things that they want to do just to get something to happen to make you look good. That's not strength. Let's not pretend like it is. Okay? That is weakness, in my opinion. It's not like he's going up in there and you're going to do it and I'm not giving you anything. That would have been strength. And I would give credit if that was the case. But that doesn't seem like this was happening here. And there's been reporting that has come out from different places and different people that are pretty much stating, yeah, Netanyahu has been promised this, and he's been promised this, and he's been promised this. And so for me, I'm sorry. This is not him going in there with some kind of strength in the presidency and making threats. This is him going in and bending the knee and giving Netanyahu what he has wanted all along, giving Ben Gvir and giving Smotrich and all them all that they've wanted all along, the things that they couldn't get Biden and them to bend on. Now, Biden's red line wasn't, enough to stop weapons and stuff. If he would have just done that, this would not even have continued on. But he wasn't strong enough to handle that. He wasn't strong enough to do that. So now, but we have Trump going in and basically, way it looks, giving all these promises and deals for Netanyahu and the regime and the Israel government to happen in order to get in a ceasefire agreement, which was the same agreement from May, to happen. And from what it sounds like, the only guarantee is the first phase. And that's just to and it conveniently that you'll see in the article that I'm about to go through, you will see that this is all being set up to make sure that the ceasefire goes into agreement and is activated by Sunday. Because Trump gets sworn in Monday. So technically, he can make the argument that I got a ceasefire done as I stated before I even entered office. And he will get all the praise and glory and everything, for a full month, a full 6 weeks. And then by that time, things have done dwindled down on that, and he would have started, talking about all these other things that they've done, and people and all the domestic stuff will be into play, and people will be concentrated on that. And by that time, people have forgotten a little bit about Israel and what's going on over there. And by that time, Israel can come up with a reason why they can't go into phase 2, and then boom, we're right back at it. And people will just forget about it and ignore it. That's what I ultimately think is going to happen, or very likely to happen. And the one thing that needs to happen is for what I'm going to do, I'm going to keep on it. I'm going to keep my eyes on it. I'm going to keep in the news of it, and I'm not going to hold back from it. And I'm going to bring it forward. I'm going to bring it to you, even if the mainstream news outlets are not going to talk about it, and there's a good chance that they won't. I'm going to talk about it here. And I'm pretty sure that other people that I listen to and, on the progressive side, independent media, are going to talk about it. So we're here all across YouTube. Keep an eye on it if you're interested in it. Keep an, if you're, if you want to stay engaged with it, and if you want to, understand what's going on and not forget about it, you can find it here. So, this article here, like I said, from Axios. Israel's security cabinet approves Gaza hostage and ceasefire deal. So we got this asshole here. The Israeli cabinet will convene on Friday to approve the Gaza hostage and ceasefire deal, which the smaller security cabinet has already approved. Okay, so that's what we're talking about. Hamas has already agreed to it. Hamas has been agreed to. This is the same shit that has been going on, and Hamas agreed to back in May, that Israel came up with all kinds of ways to get out of it. And that's what's been happening. Hamas would agree, and then Israel would find a way to get out of it. Netanyahu would find a way to get out of it, that he couldn't accept it, and the Security Council couldn't accept it. So what's happening is that the deal is going before the Security Councils and stuff of Israel for them to approve for the ceasefire for it to go forward. All right. Why it matters. Approval by the full cabinet is the final hurdle before the deal can be implemented. The Israeli Prime Minister's office said the ceasefire and the process of freeing hostages are expected to start on Sunday at 4 p.m. local time. All right. State of play. The cabinet meeting was moved up from Saturday night at the urging of the director of Israel's Shin Bet intelligence agency, Ronan Bar, or I guess that's his name. According to the Israeli official, that timeline would have meant the deal couldn't be implemented until Monday, and Bar urged Prime Minister Netanyahu to move more quickly to avoid unexpected complications. And I don't know what those complications are. Why there would be all complications for Monday, I don't know, outside of the fact that Trump, is asking for this to make him look good. But moving it up meant convening after the Jewish Sabbath began. The ultra-Orthodox members of the cabinet said they would agree to that because the deal is a matter of life and death. Driving the news, the Israeli Security Cabinet convened on Friday morning local time. Sorry. Ahead of the full cabinet meeting, and was briefed on the Gaza hostage and ceasefire deal. Netanyahu said, "This is important. This is the one thing that has been argued that Trump, the official that Trump has making this deal, very well has promised Netanyahu." Netanyahu said during the meeting that he received guarantees from both the Biden administration and the Trump administration that if negotiations over the second phase of the ceasefire and hostage deal fail and Israel's security demands are not met, Israel would be able to resume the war in Gaza with U.S. backing and Netanyahu aid, tells and Netanyahu, I don't know why it says and Netanyahu aid. It's a Netanyahu aid, tells Axios. So that's very important. So here's the issue, or here's the deal. During the first phase, you have a 42-day phase, 6-week phase, where what would happen was that Israeli military would pull back from the inner city urban areas, basically pulled all that back to the outer realm of the Gaza Strip. All right, within a certain amount of feet or something, they would be able to have their area or whatever. not completely moving out, but just moving from the rural areas and allowing for humanitarian aid to come through and for people to go back, be able to be allowed back to their area, to areas of the strip that they have been restricted from, which is interesting because, we know that Israel has basically split Gaza in half. The north half has been completely evacuated for the most part and just being obliterated. I mean, every damn is when they talked about making it a parking lot, you could damn near argue they turned it into a parking lot. It has been obliterated. So it's hard to believe that they would really allow people to go back into those areas because those areas have been established as controlled by Israel, and so that's kind of already hard to believe that they would allow that. There's nothing there for people as far as livability. They can't live there, but I'm sure, a lot of people would like to go back and have the time to try to find loved ones or whatever, albeit more or less probably dead under the rubble or whatever. But, but this would be a time where they could potentially do that if allowed, and then of course, hostages released. There will be, I want to say, during the first phase, something about somewhere around the number of 20 to 25, somewhere in the 20s of hostages released from Hamas or from the, Gaza Strip that are being held hostage in the Gaza Strip, whomever they're being held by. And in turn, there would be roughly about 20 Palestinian prisoners from Israel released per hostage released from Gaza. 20 per regular hostage and 50 per Israeli militant hostage released. So that's somewhere something like that. So, and these, like I said, this is a back and forth. That's for the first phase. And then negotiations and arrangements for the second phase, which would be, as reported before, the army, the IDF completely being removed from the Gaza Strip. Of course, the A's during the first phase would be more like all the old people, children, and women, stuff like that. Then during the second phase, it would be pretty much your remaining males that are alive released, and of course, and transition of more Palestinian prisoners being released along with that. And then the third phase, another 42 days out, would be the the release of like the dead hostages, from my understanding, being released to their families from Gaza. And then of course reconstruction efforts began and blah blah blah. That's kind of my general understanding of what the deal exists. So what's talked about here is that if the negotiations and stuff fail for the second phase to advance into the second phase, then they're being given guarantees that and security demands are not met, that Israel can resume the war. They can resume bombing. And so that's what they're being guarantees of. And that's the one thing that has been said, that one of part of the deal that has been given by Trump is that, yeah, you get the ceasefire done before I get in, and then, the only thing I guarantee we'll guarantee is the 42 days, and then from there, if things aren't happening, sure, go back to bombing and whatever. That's the first thing that has been talked about and argued. As we know before, that's, basically what happened even back in November when we had the initial ceasefire. and you know, Israel argued that they couldn't negotiate any further, and they went right back to bombing. And then they haven't cared to negotiate since, or haven't tried to really engage with any honesty, anyways, in my opinion, since. So that's what that's all about. So, and then we have here behind the scenes, Netanyahu's remarks on the Security Cabinet meeting come after ultra-nationalist finance minister Smotrich said he and the cabinet members from his party would vote against the deal, but not leave the coalition. Then we have sources in Smotrich's party claimed he received assurances from Netanyahu that the war would resume after the initial 42-day ceasefire, and the humanitarian aid delivery system for Gaza would be changed to prevent Hamas from controlling the aid. That is interesting, and I'm not sure what that would entail. Because, they could argue that in order to prevent Hamas from controlling aid, they'd have to completely stop aid. Meanwhile, Netanyahu's ultra-nationalist Minister of National Security, Ben-Gvir, held a press conference on Thursday and announced he would resign and his party would leave the coalition if the deal was approved. He said he would be ready to rejoin the coalition if Israel were to resume fighting in Gaza after the 42-day ceasefire in the first phase of the deal. That's the type of people who are in this coalition. Gvir's the most hardcore. He does not want. He is completely against the ceasefire. He has been completely against the ceasefire. He has made public statements gloating about the fact of how much he has been influence in preventing a ceasefire up to this point. All the tactics that he has engaged in to prevent a ceasefire. This is who this guy is. Both Smotrich and Ben-Gvir voted against the deal at the Security Cabinet meeting, but is still passed easily. State of play ahead of the cabinet meeting. Israeli Defense Minister Israel Katz signed an order to release all Israeli settlers who were under administration detention for allegedly committing and planning terror attacks against Palestinians. This is the other part of the deal that is being brought up that Trump has been making. The first was the condition of allowing them to go back to fighting after 42 days. The other was allowing for the release of Israeli settlers who have been allegedly committed of doing terror attacks on Palestinians in the West Bank. You have quite a few of them that are being held, in, I don't know, detention or prisoner whatever situation for accusations of them doing terror attacks against Palestinians. And that's what was being agreed, that this would be one of the things that they would allow for these people to be released. An Israeli security official who was alarmed by the decision said Katz made it for a domestic political considerations and without consultation with the Shin Bet. The decision gives backwind for terrorism and will destabilize the security situation in the West Bank, the official warned. So what's next under Israeli law? This is this is something else is interesting in this whole situation. Under Israeli law, Palestinian prisoners can't be released from prison without a government vote and a 24-hour period for the public to appeal to the courts. That's why the deal, which involves the release of hundreds of Palestinian prisoners held in Israel, can't immediately take effect after the cabinet vote. So that's the reason why they want to go ahead and have the vote today, so that they can start the process by Sunday, because they, by law, would have to approve. They would have to have a vote approved, and then 24 hours for any Israeli families or whatnot of because you have Palestinian prisoners that have been accused of doing whatever acts criminally or whatever against Israelis. Any family members of those Israelis can then turn around and file an appeal in the courts on the deal to prevent those Palestinian prisoners from being released. So if you have people come in within that 24-hour period and start trying to set up appeals for these Palestinian prisoners, then the deal's, again, automatically, in my understanding, off the table. Like, it can't go through. Or I don't know if they would just say, well, then these particular prisoners cannot be released and others could. I don't know how that would work. But that's the reason why they're wanting to go ahead and do it now, so that they can try to guarantee that, they can abide by the deal by Sunday in releasing prisoners or starting the release of prisoners. Again, starting it before Trump takes office Monday, to make sure this all lines up within the perfect timeline that they are wanting this to happen. So that's the other issue here. And of course, the other promise is that Trump is going to allow them to annex the West Bank. That's the things that are being argued, that is being promised, and those are the deals that I'm talking about. And if you're bending the knee to all that, then for me that doesn't show strength. It's not you walking in and demanding that something happen without any conditions. That would be strength. That would be showing what you could do. Denying aid and all that kind of stuff. That's something you could do. It's what we've been arguing that Biden could do. So no, I personally am not going to give any credit to either one of them until we see what happens. I'm not giving some sort of preemptive support or or credit without knowing all the details. Yes, I welcome the ceasefire because the Palestinian people need that. They've needed that for months. They needed the aid. They needed the ability to not be bombed. And that's the other thing, is that every time one of these comes in and happens, Israel heightens the bombs and everything that they're dropping. I mean, we've also found out that within the first 24 hours after this ceasefire agreement started to go into place, they dropped bombs and stuff and killed 78 people within one day. I mean, this is what we're talking about. This is what they do. They will continue to drop bombs, and they will elevate what they're dropping within these next 2 days. There's no telling how many bombs they're going to drop in the next 2 days, all the way up to the time that they agree to do the ceasefire. They will bomb the living shit out of that place, because that's what they do. That's what they have done every single time. Every time something has been on the table, they have heightened and elevated the bombing just to kill more people as fast as they could, until something potentially may have been agreed on. And for them, it wound up not being agreed on, so they could just continue going and it wouldn't matter. But now they're being given what it sounds like. They're being given what they really truly wanted all along. which honestly doesn't really restrict them to a permanent ceasefire. That's supposed to happen under the second phase. That's the other thing that's supposed to happen under the second phase is if you get to the second phase and agree upon this, all the conditions and stuff to get to a second phase, the second phase was supposed to establish a permanent ceasefire. And I guarantee you they will try everything they can to not enter that second phase. Now the agreement is supposed to be that as long as discussions are being had, that the first phase could continue and be prolonged as long as there's negotiations being done and towards a second phase. Now there again, that opens it up, as long as they want to. But like I said, at any point Israel could be like, they're not agreeing to it and our security is not being met that we agreed to, so we're not gonna hold to this and we're gonna go right back to bombing. Now the other side to that is that, by that time, 42 days, and what's being argued is 42 days is a long period of time in the grand scheme, in within this idea, thought, is a long time. You would have a lot of people moved around. They won't have them like they have them right now. Everybody compressed into a certain area. People will be more widespread. The argument of, innocents being killed will be heightened if they were to continue bombing after 42 days, along with the fact that in this 42-day period, very well, journalists and reporters and stuff will more than less be allowed into the Gaza Strip. So you will start to hear other things being reported and more detailed stuff being reported. And so that could make a difference. That could apply pressure to not continue. But I don't know. I don't know if it'd be enough. I don't know. We'll have to see. But like I said, I don't give them credit. I'm not about to give them credit. Not yet. I don't see this as strength. It's welcome, and I'm happy and glad for the Palestinian people on that. That's they have, it is well past due, and I hope that conditions arise that ultimately prevent and persuade Israel to not re-engage. I truly do hope that's the case. But like I said, I personally am not willing to say, it's so strong and, Trump jumped in there and just things started happening and, he's so wonderful. Praise be to him for how. No. That's not. He's not getting that. Now, if different information comes out, if these types of things that are being said don't actually happen, that they're just being reported, but it actually doesn't, it finally, it gets reported that, hey, these things didn't happen, and he, or he ultimately comes out within the 42 days and finds another way to force them to agree to the second stage of maybe we can start giving them some credit. But right now it's too early. It's just too early. And I will never give Biden credit. So, anyways, that's the update. What's going on? Not sure what will happen. I'm sure we will hear by the end of the day or into tomorrow more details, and whether it will officially go through and happen or not. I'm seeing that Trump's uh, inauguration is now being moved indoors because of the weather. Because it is going to be really cold, very cold. So, um, anyway, maybe I'll do a video about that real quick. Um, I don't know. I don't know if it's worth it. Um, but yeah, we'll that's what I feel about that. Let me know what you think about the ceasefire. Do you think it's going to happen? How skeptical are you? Do you think that are you in the same lane as me? Or are you thinking that uh, that credit should be given already or yet, or maybe it should be held out, like I'm arguing, um, until we get a little bit more deeper into the weeds and the details. The devil's in the details, as they say. Um, or whatever. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Thank you very much. Until next time, peace. Been Clear Talk. I'm out.